Number 2. The CDI Zelda games. Yeah, you heard me right. People generally only talk about how terrible these games are, and they're not entirely wrong, but hear me out. We all know it has become popular to hate on these games nowadays, but I'm going to ask you to think for yourself. Have you ever played them? Most likely not, seeing as they were made for a console that failed before most current gamers were even born. And with the reputation, I bet very few people even seek them out through emulation. With that said, it's my position that in spite of their comical flaws, they are absolutely salvageable. There were 3 Legend of Zelda games for the Philips CDI. The first 2 were visually beautiful, and in my opinion were even ahead of A Link to the Past, which was stunning in its day. The things that plague these games are the insane difficulty, cheap deaths, not nearly enough frames of animation, and worst of all, the bizarre cutscenes. Oh, and the script. We can't forget how terrible that was too. But how many games have been remade or remastered where they gave the full suite of quality of life improvements, like better controls and more player-friendly design? It could happen. They could absolutely make this work. The third Zelda game for the CDI was called Zelda's Adventure, and it was very different from the other 2. While the first 2 were side-scrolling action-adventure games much like Zelda 2, Zelda's Adventure returns to the top-down style the original had. There were primarily only 2 major problems with that one. Zelda and the enemies were pre-rendered sprites much like you would see in Mortal Kombat, and it contrasted poorly with the low-resolution textures of the map that she moved around on. Additionally, the game had rough transitions from screen to screen that would often lead to instant death by way of random enemies having the advantage over you as soon as you appeared. These things could easily be remade and fixed. How cool would it be to see a modern top-down Zelda game where you actually got to play as Zelda? Nintendo, I challenge you, use the original stories and the general format of these games, but modernize everything else. Drop all 3 onto a physical cartridge for $60 and I'm gonna buy at least 2 copies.